Hey guys, my name is A-Dogs and welcome to my channel where we focus on doing quality, standard and premium content all year round. Now with that out of the way, we'll go straight into the video. So today we will be bringing you a premium Granblue deck profile. Now we have quite a few cards to go through, so I will go through this deck profile as quick as I can. So first of all, we have Rough Seas Banshee. So the reason why it's in here is we put this in our soul to draw a card. It gives us resources and it can let us potentially search for key pieces. Secondly, we run one Code of the Ghosty. So Code of the Ghosty is in here for the turns where our field may get wiped, and if our field gets wiped, we can call Code of the Ghosty back, and then we have a Regard to retire for a Negro Lily turn. We'll go into Negro Lily when we get into the G zone. Next we run for Chad the Ghosty. Chad the Ghosty is the stride fodder for the deck. We do have other grade 3s we can stride with, but sometimes we might not want to get rid of those key pieces, so we use Chad the Ghosty instead. Gustion is a grade 0 PG for turns where our opponent is using cards that may only allow us to use certain cards to guard with. So that is why we run Gustion. We do run 3 grade 1 PGs. We'll go into that when we get close to there. Next we run 1 Overtrigger because Overtriggers are busted. We run 2 Make the Ghosty. So this is mainly here for on the opponent's turn where we can call this out with our negatively plays, allowing us to give the Vanguard plus 10k if we declare hollow. We can do this multiple times in one turn if we have multiple copies in the drop. It is why I run 2. I was running 1, but after a lot of testing I decided that 2 was the way to go. Next we run Sea Cruising Banshee for our Hill Guards, self-explanatory. We run 1 Undying Departed Grenache. It is our V-Starter. Again, very powerful, right on place, draw 1. Very nice, and if you go second, we get a quick shield. We run 1 Grenache G, so it has a 4 on ability, so we don't really focus on that. It also has a hollow ability, and then when it's placed on Regard Circle, if we declare hollow and we get GB1, we get the counter charge 2 at the end of turn, so definitely a very handy card. We run 3 Water Spout Gins. So it's pretty much the main skill is if we have another copy of Water Spout Gin, when we PG with Water Spout Gin, we get to counter charge 1. So we use it for turns where we may need a little bit more counter charge for a Negro Lily plays, or maybe we just need some extra counter charge for our big turn, which is the Night Mist Break Ride turn. We will get into that later on in the video. We run 1 Honolly to stop decks that do a lot of multi-attacks unless they continuously pay the counterblast. As some decks sometimes just do a lot of small pokes instead of like big pokes, so this definitely helps us stay alive for longer. Again, there are obviously good players out there who can play around Honolly and do big attacks, and when in doing so, it can still cripple our hand, so we're just going to be careful, we just got to play smart. Next we run 2 Tommy the Ghosty Brothers, so this card is here again just to try and dig for grade 3s to either put in drop and put in hand. So again, we want to like try and search for our Vanguard, or our main Vanguard, which is Beatrice, put cards and drop like Skull Dragons, Night Storms, Night Mists, I guess to an extent. If we can get Night Mist back with Greed Shade, we'll explain what Greed Shade does later on in the video, and also try and get our Hill Guards. We run Ripple Banshee, so this card is here as an extra form of draw power. Sometimes we might need to draw more to keep ourselves alive longer, and in the scenario where Ghost Ship isn't enough draw for us to kind of maintain hand and not die. I run 1 Damien the Ghosty, so this is here to put specific cards in their drop, such as Beatrice and Gesture the Ghosty. And then it also has the second ability that when it attacks, if we have counter charge this turn with Damien, we can counter charge. It does retire itself when when it's finished attacking. That is fine. Again, it's another counter charge on the deck because we do use a lot of counter blast. We have one Sleeve Tucking Bell. So Sleeve Tucking Bell is in here for the Narukami matchup, where they will bind a lot of cards from our drop, field, and hand. And Sleeve Tucking Bell allows us to put all those cards back on the drop so that it puts them back at square one. And Sleeve Tucking Bell can potentially become quite big depending on how many cards are put into the drop from the bind zone. We have Urgula. So Urgula is here to stop Denial Griffin plays, specifically when we're trying to do a big break ride turn. So we want to protect cards like our Night Storms and our Skull Dragons. You know, they're kind of like the big units. Again, when Skull Dragons become big, being able to make sure a Skull Dragon can't die or be stopped unless by a PG is definitely very handy, because sometimes the opponent may not have PGs and are relying maybe on a disruptive play. Next we run 2 Negro Bones. So this is another way to call cards from the drop zone, as the only main calls that we have during the main phase is Ghostly the Beatrice and Colombard. Again, it puts itself from on the deck, so that it also helps us with not decking out when our deck gets low. We run 1 King Serpent, so it allows us to counter charge and soul charge. Definitely being able to soul charge definitely does help a lot, especially for turns when we might be using a lot of soul. So the King Serpent helps mitigate that and make sure that we have ample amount of soul and enough counterblast for our turns offensively, and also help set up for our turns when we use it defensively if we're using a lot of counterblast. Next we run 3 Greed Shade. So Greed Shade allows us to search for any card in the drop and put it to our hand. This card is absolutely ridiculous. It is not once per turn, so we can do this multiple times in a turn, which is absolutely crazy. And then also it does get 5k, we have 10 cards in drop. The 14k attack does sometimes come up if we go on for pokes. Usually we don't aim for pokes, we try to aim for big attacks. The only time we go for maybe a small poke is maybe with Night Storm and Beatrice if we're doing the break ride turn combo. Again, we'll go later on to that in the video. We run 1 Just of the Ghosty, so it allows us to sack 2 Regards and call itself out, which is handy if we're trying to get rid of dead cards on the board. And then when it attacks, we get the counter charge 1, it also gets 5k. Definitely a very nice card. It does retire itself at the end of the battle low, which is fine. As I said, just being able to counter charge is definitely does help a lot. So for it dying is definitely, I think, fair enough. So we have Skeleton Kalani here. It is another one-off. So again, it has a whole ability. So it's here to snipe off Regards during our turn if there are cards like Honolly or maybe other potentially potent cards that we need to get rid of very quickly. It is also here for one of our defensive Denial Griffin plays. We'll go into that when we get into the G zone. We run 3 Colombard. So Colombard allows us to search for any card, put into the drop, and then we get to call a card out from the drop to the field. So on a grade 2 turn, we will always usually search for Ghost Ship, kind of the bread and butter combo, just be able to get an extra card in hand and get some aggression in the early game. And then this card is also good for searching for pieces on when we run our Beatrice. Maybe search for cards we need on board right now, so maybe like a Greed Shade, we haven't seen a Greed Shade yet, to maybe like search for a Stride Fighter or maybe anything else that we need. It's also good to be used defensively. Don't use it too much unless we really need to use the card defensively on a negatively turns. So we have 1 Stormlight Ghost Ship, so it is a beater and it's also a draw engine. So it is very good for filling those two categories. We are able to use Ghost Ship multiple times in one turn sometimes on our stride turns, so it does definitely help being able to make a bigger hand. Next we run 1 Night Mist, so it is the break ride. It allows us to call 2 cards out from the drop when it's ridden over and we need a little break 4. We will go into the combo when we get there. it is definitely, again, a very, very solid card for the strategy we're going for, which is trying to, when we get into the Breakwrite combo, to absolutely kill the opponent. We have one Right Rose, so this is one of the Vanguard multi-attackers. We can use this going first, if we can get it fetch for it and put aggression. Otherwise we can use Beatrice just to kind of make a hand. So on the opponent's turn, when they are rushing us and using aggression, we do have ample hand for it. Night Rose is also part of the big Breakwrite combo, and we'll get into that when we get into the G zone. We run 3 Skull Dragons. Skull Dragon is our beater of the deck. It scales as we go further in the game. It becomes very massive and very overwhelming very quickly, depending on how quick we go into our Breakwrite combo. So we run Beatrice, so this card can call cards out from the drop from our Vanguard and Vanguard circle. It gives our Ghosties, Shield and Intercept, that sometimes does come up. And then with the last skill of being able to make multi-attacks by Ghosties, it also sometimes does come up as well. Not too much. But just, again, it's mainly here just being able to on-place cool cards from the drop zone before we stride, which is very handy. And again, for our defensive plays, in place on Vanguard circle. Again, we'll go into that when we get into the G zone. Lastly, we run one Runty Rogue Nightstorm. So this is our multi-attack on Vanguard circle. So it allows us to call out cards like Ghost Ship, being able to draw more cards. It is also another big part of the Breakwrite combo. Alright, so we've talked about the Breakwrite combo quite a lot in this video, so we will go with the Bad Bounty first, and then we will go through everything else. So Bad Bounty is a card that allows us to do the Breakwrite combo. So how it works is, well, we'll first explain the Vanguard skills, which is the main thing. So at the metal attacks, you can must find this card 3 cards from your hand, put it into your G zone face up, and then write up to 1 grade 3 card from your drop zone as stand. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we have a Night Storm, Night Mist Breakwrite before we stride. We want to have that as the Vanguard. We want it to be at 4 damage, then we stride. We stride into Bad Bounty. So we need to have to set things up. We want to have a Skull Dragon on one circle, and then Night Storm on the other circle. So we swing with Skull Dragon dies. We swing with Night Storm calls out Beatrice. Then Beatrice calls out a Skull Dragon on the circle that Night Storm is on. We swing with Beatrice. We swing with Skull Dragon. Then we swing with Bad Bounty, do our drive checks. We then discard 3 cards from my hand. Then we ride the Night Rose from our drop. We ride it on the Vanguard circle as stand. The Breakwrite activates. We reset the board, so having a Skull Dragon on one circle, Knights on the other circle. We then swing again with the Skull Dragon. We then swing with the Night Storm. Night Storm calls out the Beatrice. Beatrice calls out a Dragon. We then swing with Beatrice and then the Dragon. And then next we swing with Night Rose for our with our Vanguard. We then counterblast 1, call out a Skull Dragon in the front row, and then we call out a Beatrice in the back row. We Soul Blast 1 for Beatrice, call a Skull Dragon on the other Vanguard circle, and then we swing with our Skull Dragons. So we get quite a bit of attacks, and we get 6 Skull Dragons in that combo. So that combo is very lethal. If we somehow aren't able to kill the opponent on the first time with that Breakwrite combo, if we have enough resources to set it up, we can actually do it again, and hopefully the second time we do it should kill them. We also run the Pirate King of Everlasting Darkness, Bartholomew. So when we have 30 cards to drop, we have the guard con that all our cards have to be guarded with 3 or more cards from hand at the same time. So this definitely helps when doing all the small pokes again. And then also when it attacks, we can counterblast 1, choose up the 3 cards, different card names from our drop, and call them the Vanguard circle, and the cards called get +5 through a turn. So this also enables multi-attacks. So having a guard with 3 cards at once 3 cards or more at the same time and having multi-attacks on top is definitely quite scary. This is definitely a very, very good card. I've been testing this card a lot and I'm really enjoying this card like quite a bit. Next we have Big Obadiah. So Big Obadiah sets up our drop. We get to put any 5 cards in the deck in the drop zone, so we probably want to put the 5 cards in the drop that we think we will need for the rest of the game. We don't usually go into a second Obadiah, but in the scenario where we do, and we've put, the 5 cards on the drop, and we think, this is enough, we need to go into another one to make sure our drop zone is completely set up. We have a second one just in that scenario. I don't ever have to use a second Obadiah, but in the scenarios that I do, I have a second one there. We also run the original Obadiah. This is for the turns where when we get eventually stride first, when we eventually get to stride and we've been damage denied, this allows us to call search for 3 cards instead of 5, so it's kind of bad. Again, it's still decent. We get to call a ghosty out, so we usually call Beatrice, and then Beatrice will call out another regard, so we kind of get something on board. Again, not as great as the new Obadiah, but it's still something. We have Galleon here for gains if we, for some reason, get into the late game and get to our GB8. The GB8 is still very good, just making regards really big, really massive, for doing next to nothing is really nice. Again, we don't have to, pay any counterblast, don't have to do anything like that. I just call 5 cards out for free, so that's nice. We have Megado here for the turns when, we have used our Breakword combo. The Breakword combo hasn't killed them. They've done their turn. They don't have much hand, and we feel like maybe one final push would be enough, and we don't have much for the break ride. We can just go on Megado. Megado will hopefully clean the game up for us. Onto the G guards. So we run 2 of the new G guards. So when it's placed in Guardian Circle, you counter +1, and the attack unit gets crit -1 to until the end of battle for every 10 cards on drop. So this is for good for decks that have Vanguards that maybe swing for massive crit, or have abilities to kill off perfect guards. So DP is the main one. They swing big, they swing hard, they swing fast, and if you put PGs down, they roll grade 3s, and they've used the stand trigger, which the stand trigger is, well, I'm pretty sure when it goes into the soul, you draw a card, and then whenever you roll a grade 3, you can retire one of, you get to nullify one of the perfect guards. So this gets around it, as we just minus the Vanguard crit, and we don't have to worry about them using their stand trigger to stop our plays. So this essentially helps us survive their big turns and hopefully scoop up the game and kill them. Again, it can also be used for like maybe other turns where we think maybe the Negarelli, which we're going to now, maybe might not be as good as this one here, as this one might have more value at the time. So we have Negarelli. So what we do with Negarelli is Negarelli retires a regard to call Beatrice, which is the main ghost you want to call out. So what happens there is Beatrice can call any card from our drop zone to regard circle, so we can search for mix to give our Vanguard 10k power. We can use it to call out Cannoneer, which can retire something during the opponent's turn. It's kind of like a Tenal Griffin. We can set up a Honolly. We can set up quite a few things. So Negarelli is definitely a very, very good G-Guard in this deck. Again, just being able to interact and do disruptive plays during the opponent's turn definitely helps a lot in this deck. We run 1 Neganora. I've been thinking about maybe running an extra Neganora. Maybe put down the new G-Guard to 1. So this can just make our... This can definitely make our G-Guard very massive, as we can call 2 cards from grades on a drop. So for some reason, if we've milled our Overtrigger, we can have the Overtrigger, maybe like another card, maybe like the grade 3 Hillguard, and just make an absolutely massive shield, and hopefully that would be enough to stop maybe the big attack or real attacks that the opponent is throwing at us. And then we just have one of the generic, just Eclipse Dragon, Hulk, Deep Corpse Dragon, just on place, mill 2, gets 5k shield. Definitely very nice. It's very, very simple. It could potentially mill us 2 good cards being in the drop. So yeah, sorry about how quick this deck profile was. This is what my premium deck profile is for at the moment. It could potentially change in the future, but at the moment I feel like this is a very solid list from what I've been playing. I will try and do a premium video of testing this deck in action against another deck on CFA, but we'll see how that goes. I'll try and upload a video of that maybe tomorrow or maybe on Tuesday, but I'll try and do it as quick as I can. But anyway, thank you for watching the deck profile. I hope